Hello, beloveds. Spirit poses a very important question today, and that is, are you tired of sabotaging your relationships? Are you tired? Stay tuned. Hello there, beloveds. I hope that you all are having a beautiful day. I hope that you're having a beautiful week. Spirit comes today with this message regarding sabotage, sabotaging relationships. There are many reasons why we as human beings sabotage relationships. And this is not just in a romantic context. This could be interpersonal relationships, this could be professional relationships, this could be your relationships with your family, your significant other, romantic, what have you. Many reasons that contribute to why some of us will sabotage a relationship. And it varies. Your childhood experiences play a big part in it. Your experiences during your adolescent years play a big part in it. Your young adult life, your first relationship, your first sexual encounter. So many different things contribute to the way we act today around people and how we connect with them and what kind of relationship we build with different peoples in our life. Fear of intimacy is one. Fear of intimacy, fear of getting too close. Each and every time you feel that you're getting too close, that things are getting too personal, that things are starting to go in a much serious direction, your fear kicks in and you shut down the relationship. You do things on purpose that will sabotage the relationship. And then on top of that, the crazy part is that after you've done what you've done on purpose to sabotage your relationship, because it's actually that fear of getting too close, you then actually go through the whole process of suffering that, or of feeling guilty, or feeling sad and upset and crying and the whole 9 yards because that relationship that you contributed to its demise failed. We have to think about why. What part of your history, what part of your past experiences have contributed to how you deal with relationships now in your life? Everyone, at some point in their lives, everyone desires intimacy. In my spiritual opinion, it is my belief that everyone desires intimacy. But if your experience with intimacy has been a negative one, based on your childhood experience or your young adult life experience, then each and every time you find yourself in an intimate encounter, you link that, you attach that to a negative consequence, to a negative ending, to a negative experience, which allows you or makes you fall back. Do you have a negative parental experience? Was your parents perhaps people that were emotionally abusive to you? Or was your parents somebody that were physically abusive to you? And now you attach intimacy with abuse, and you attach intimacy with neglect, or you attach intimacy with trauma. And therefore, when you find yourself in a relationship that is or becomes intimate, then now you believe that each and every person that comes close to you will end up hurting you. You believe that each and everybody that you allow into your heart will be people that ultimately will abuse you, will traumatize you, will neglect you, will emotionally abuse you, or what have you. And it's also why, and this is such a broad topic, too broad to condense it into one video. But this is also one of the many reasons why certain individuals fall into abusive relationships, because their relationship they had with their parents were abusive in some level. So you end up in a relationship with someone that have the same characteristics and treatments towards you, and you shut down. Did you have a negative parental experience with your parents? Childhood trauma, such as sexual abuse or physical abuse, also has an impact as to how you end up building a relationship in your future? It's a fear of abandonment. Is it fear of abandonment or fear of abandonment or fear of feeling trapped? Meaning, if I allow myself to become intimate with this person, then I am going to be so emotionally invested that I won't know how to get out. I won't know how to cut this cord. I won't know how to release myself if things go bad. This is not because the relationship is bad. It's because in the back of your mind, you're thinking that if you allow yourself to become too intimate, you expose yourself to pain and to possible pain or possible hurt, possible trauma, possible betrayal, possible abuse. You're thinking that if you allow yourself to get entangled in an intimate relationship, you expose yourself too much and you won't be able to have the strength to get out. You won't be able to have your exit door. Is it fear? Is it fear of feeling trapped that avoids you creating an intimate relationship with people that you care, people that are potential partners, whether romantic or in friendships or what have you? You avoid intimacy because you secretly feel the need to have that exit door to say, it's time to get out. This is getting too serious. It's time to get out. I don't like where this is going. I feel too vulnerable. Some of you don't have a good relationship with vulnerability. I feel too vulnerable. So I don't want to be in this setting where I feel vulnerable, because we attach vulnerability to weakness. And vulnerability is not weakness. Vulnerability is your ability to connect with someone in such a passionate level that we become one. But that fear of becoming one, if you've had trauma in the past, you will attach it to something negative and not positive. You start to avoid getting too close in this particular circumstance. You start to avoid getting too close. You start to become distant. This is when someone that you've been dealing with all of a sudden now doesn't return your calls or cancels appointments, doesn't want to see you this weekend because they make up something that they have to do. They don't want to see you after work because they have to go take care of something. And in reality, they are avoiding you out of fear of becoming intimate. And let's clarify this. I should have said this at the beginning. When I use the word intimacy, which many scholars have referred to intimacy as being able to see into me. Intimacy, being able to allow you to see into me. Intimacy is not always sexual. Intimacy is not always sexual. It's not always sexual. So I use the word intimacy loosely, but not just to refer to sexual relationships, sexual encounters. You avoid getting too close out of fear of intimacy. You avoid, or better yet, you avoid getting too close out of fear of being so exposed that others see into you. Avoidance. You try to avoid that heavily. Do you gaslight? That's another question that some of you should be asking yourself. Do you gaslight? Do you gaslight those that you care about, those that you love, or potential individuals that you can connect to, because the chemistry is so strong, the connection is so strong, but you gaslight them out of fear? That's your excuse as to how you protect yourself. That is your excuse as to how you protect yourself, making them believe that whatever it is, whatever happened, is actually their fault and not yours. You broke up with them because it's their fault. You didn't return their call because it's their fault. You didn't see them that weekend because it's their fault. You're always faulting that other person for what you refuse to see, when in reality, you're hiding the fact that you are avoiding to become close. You are avoiding to build an intimate relationship. Closeness, to be close to that person. You won't acknowledge what they feel. You gaslight. You will not acknowledge what they feel. You gaslight them. Do you continuously break away from a possible, listen to this, to what Spirit is saying. Do you continuously break away from a possible relationship over and over and over and over and over and over again? Going from dating this person to dating this other person to dating someone else. You just cannot seem to stay in a stable relationship because you always want to bail out. The runaway bride. Well, let me not go there. I was going to talk about Orisha, Oracle de Lagoon, the particular sign that talks about that, but that's a different ball game. You avoid the intimacy. You avoid the intimacy with that individual. You go from dating this person to dating that other person, and you're always looking for flaws. Always looking for flaws that will support your excuse for not wanting to see them anymore, from leaving them, abandoning them, to going to another person. Are you a habitual jealous person? Are you a habitual jealous individual, wanting and needing to control everything about that person out of fear that they could be out there cheating on you? If they took too long to respond back to your text message, you act out. If they took too long to return your phone call, you act out. If they took too long to respond, even having a face-to-face conversation, you're thinking that they're thinking about something else, that there's something else, that's really their focus is somewhere else. You're always believing and thinking and feeling that there's betrayal. Always thinking that there's betrayal. It is very difficult to deal with someone that always thinks that you are doing something wrong. It is very difficult to deal with an individual that is overly jealous. Jealousy, I personally do believe that there is safe jealousy, so to speak, for lack of better terms. Safe jealousy, a jealousy that's safe because you are in love, maybe, right, with this individual, or you're so close, you're so tight with your friend, with your best friend, that you don't like to share them. But there's jealousy to a certain extent. There's a very thin line, to be honest with you. Jealousy to a certain extent, there's a safe aspect of jealousy, right? A very unadulterated, level of jealousy that's just really small, that's just innocent. This is the word I was looking for. It's very innocent jealousy. You called your friend, or you didn't call me. That's innocent in certain way. But when you go from that to, because I'm not important to you, because if not, you would have called me instead of them, and you start to find excuses to support your jealousy, that is dangerous, and you end up sabotaging your relationship with your partner, with your significant other, with your best friend, because you need to control them. Because that's then jealousy, then it has a very close relationship to control issues. You need to control their time. You need to control their space. You need to control every aspect of their life, because you feel that if you don't control it, you are exposing yourself to betrayal. If you don't control their time, if you don't control their persona, if you don't control their character, if you don't control what they say, what they do, when and how, you are exposing yourself to betrayal, to all sorts of different fabricated thoughts that run through your mind. You're setting yourself up for failure and sabotaging possible good relationships or an already established relationship. Are you highly critical about everything? Are you highly critical about everything? Meaning you always find a way to criticize everything that person does, everything your significant other does, everything your best friend does. Are you always finding flaws where there aren't any? Are you always in search of perfection, knowing that there is no such thing as perfection, but you make it hard and difficult? Because if you avoid and dismiss and release the need to find imperfections where there aren't any, you know that you build a closer relationship with that person. Let me see if I can better explain myself. As long as I'm always criticizing you, I'm always finding a flaw in you, as long as I always have something to criticize about what you do or what you say, that negative energy, that negative vibration keeps me semi emotionally distant from you, because my focus and my concentration is in criticizing you, criticizing your work, criticizing your character, criticizing how you talk, how you walk, how you act, what you didn't do, what you failed to see. Always criticizing someone that you care about is a way to keep yourself emotionally distant from them, because your focus is on their flaws, if there are some. Even if there aren't any, you're making up flaws that they're not really there, so that you can emotionally remain distant from that person. Are you someone that is so critical that you're always criticizing everything in search of a so-called perfection that doesn't exist in the real world? Think about this. Do you have an avoidance personality? Do you have an avoidance personality? Each time your partner wants to address an issue or bring up a conversation about something that they dislike or see that needs improvement, you claim there is no issue. Oh, that's nothing. Oh, yeah, you just overblowing it. You're just blowing it out of proportion. Avoiding the issue, avoiding the conversation, avoiding the topic, avoiding the very same things that needs to be addressed, so that you don't allow yourself to build an intimate relationship with this person. Because at the moment, think about this, at the moment that you allow yourself to normalize this relationship and talk about the things that need to be spoken about, then we can be on the same level, and we can definitely remain a balance. And this creates intimacy, creates a stronger, deeper connection. But as long as I avoid this conversation, something that we do need to speak about, something that does need to be addressed, as long as I avoid it, then I am also avoiding our ability to connect, because obviously the other person is not happy. It's not happy about the fact that I am not willing to address an important issue that's important to them. So in me not wanting to address an issue that's important to my partner, to my best friend, to whomever I'm close to, then I am also impeding the ability to create a stronger bond. You have an avoidance personality. You have to check yourself on that. You have to check yourself on that. Do you always stay upset and angry and mad? Are you always mad about something? Is it hard for you to go a week without being mad and upset, bothered about something? You always find a way to stay mad, to stay upset. Meaning, you hold grudges. Obviously, there is no perfect relationship. Not in a friendship, not in a romantic relationship. There is no such thing as perfection. But though there is no such thing as perfection, the little things that do happen with any normal individuals, sometimes we're not going to agree on things. Sometimes we're not going to see eye to eye on certain topics, on certain issues. Sometimes we're not going to always agree on everything. And that can bring about discomfort, because we can have an intelligent argument. We can also agree to disagree about certain things. But when we choose to be mad, right? Now we're choosing to be mad. Now we want to impose what we believe. Now we want to impose. Are you really imposing your belief? Or are you always finding excuses to stay mad at the person that you know you care about, at the person that you know you love, only so that you become distant from them? Because you can't create intimacy with anger. We cannot create intimacy with anger. I cannot be intimately involved with you on a friendship level, on a romantic level, if we're always upset. So the fact that you always want to be upset and mad about something, what does it do? It creates distance between you and that other person. So your only negative tool to hold on to so that you avoid yourself getting close is by staying mad, creating arguments out of stupidity. That is that nitpicking, angry individual that's always upset, that always has something to be mad about. There comes a point where you wonder, is there a happy in you? Are you able to be happy about anything? Are you able to be happy about anything? Do you always have to hold on to a grudge forever and a day? You prefer to stay mad so you don't have to get close. Or at times, with sabotaging a relationship, at times it's the fact that you don't trust yourself enough to even be someone that can love. You don't trust yourself enough to love, and you end up just sabotaging the relationship because you don't trust yourself to love. You are afraid of loving, and because you are afraid of loving, you do things that ultimately many people out there, many people in your life will not tolerate it. They can't deal with it. And actually, they don't have to deal with it. It's not fair. But you do that on purpose. That's what they don't know. They don't know that you do it on purpose because you are avoiding love. You are avoiding that connection. You are avoiding that intimacy. One main issue, beloveds, is when you turn people in your life. Listen to this. One main issue is when you turn people in your life, whether it's a boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, best friend, your parents, whomever. One of the major issues when you turn people in your life into gods. You make them godly-like in your mind. You make them godly-like in your heart. Many of us do that. And we don't even do that on purpose. But many of us do that. So we expose relationships to a abrupt, ugly, negative end. We expose relationships to sabotage when we put people on godly-like pedestals. Because the only human beings that should be in a pedestal is God, the Creator, the Source, Spirit, whomever your God is, whoever your Spirit is, whoever that divine source of life is for you. That is the only entity that should be in a godly-like pedestal. So we make the mistake of putting people in godly-like pedestals. And what does that do? And what does that mean? It means that we idolize them in such a godly-like way that then you make people in your life godly-like in your mind, in your heart. And one way to know when people have made you or have made others or look at them as God, and maybe they don't literally look at them as God in their mind, but they actually do. You know how? When you see people that say things such as, I can't live without. I've seen it for years and years and years in my spiritual practice, in my religious and spiritual walk of life. I've seen it for years. For over 25 years, I've been seeing this. I can't live without her. And you try to counsel that individual. You try to show them that they're not the only person on this earth. You try to show them that there are other options. You try to help them see that they are not limited, that their life is not limited to that person alone. But their mentality, their statement, their belief, their feeling is, I can't live without them. I can't live without her. Or you see people say, if he leaves me, I don't know what I would do with myself. I would rather die than not be with him. I feel like I will die if he leaves me. I feel like my life will come to an end. These are individuals that have placed that person in a godly-like pedestal. Because, beloved, the only individual that we cannot live without. And I shouldn't say individual. The only entity, the only vibration, the only force that we cannot live without is the Creator, is God, is Spirit, the Source. That is the only one we can't live without. But for you to be in an emotional state of mind, for you to be in an emotional state of mind where you feel, literally feel in your bones, in your flesh, in your heart, in your mind, that you can't live without that person or this person, you have made them a god in your life. You have put them in a godly-like pedestal. I can't live without you. We gotta be cautious with those kinds of statements. I can't live without you. I'd rather die than not be with you. Gotta be cautious with those kinds of statements. And I can actually swish it around, right? I don't want to go off topic, but we can also speak about these people that, especially men, right? Because those are the main ones that you see in situations like this, where men that tells a woman that if it's not with him, it's nobody. Like, you can't live without me. If it ain't me, it ain't gonna be with nobody. I'll kill you if you don't this and this and that. That cycle has just made her his God in his mind. He has turned her into his God in his mind. That's a whole different ball game. I'll do a video about that sometime in the near future. What this means, beloveds, is that you have lost yourself. Okay? You have lost yourself. You have lost your identity to another person. When you put them on that kind of pedestal, you have lost your identity to that person. You start to look unto people or to a person for those answers, for the survival that only the Creator can offer to us. Only the Creator can offer to us. So what happens? Because I want to stay on track on the fact of different ways that we could end up sabotaging a relationship. When you place a person in a godly-like pedestal, what happens? You expect godly-like answers. You expect godly-like behavior. You expect godly-like person's reactions to be godly-like. Because the only thing that I can think of that we can pray to and receive answers is God, the Spirit, Oricha, Buddha, whoever you believe in, but not to a person. But when you put an individual in a godly-like pedestal, when you request things of this person, when you desire things from this person, when you are expecting things from this individual, and this individual cannot respond to you, cannot give back to you what you have requested of them, then becomes an issue. This is arguments. These are fights. This is disconnect. This is where lack of intimacy starts to occur, because they're not responding to you in the manner that you want them to, because you have them in such a high pedestal that you can't see imperfections. You can see that they're humans, not God. You can see that they will make mistakes. You can see that there will be days where they will not want to deal with certain things. You will not contemplate the fact that these individuals are humans, just like you. Just like you. But when we put someone in a godlike pedestal, and the response that we get back, the reactions that we get back, it baffles your mind. It drives you crazy, or it depresses you. And then everything just starts to spiral down. We got to be cautious. You start to look onto them like they're God, and therefore you expect them to respond as such, and they are not. When you place godly-like expectations, when you place godly-like expectations on human beings, you run the risk of sabotaging your relationship. You run the risk of sabotaging your relationships. For example, many people, countless of individuals, depend on someone else to make them happy. Yes, me connecting with you, me being in an intimate romantic relationship with my partner, having a healthy relationship with my parents, or you having a healthy relationship with your children, with your siblings, can indeed be a happy experience. But when your expectation is for that person to make you happy, that's a different ballgame. I know it sounds the same, but it's not. When your expectation of that person is for them to make you happy, then you're putting such a godly-like responsibility on a human being. You're putting a godly-like responsibility on a human being. They don't have that kind of power. They don't have that kind of power. They don't have that kind of power. And we as human beings, we have to realize that other human beings shouldn't carry the burden, the responsibility of making us happy. You know what also happens with that? It happens that you don't know how to be happy with yourself. You don't know how to find happiness within you. And because you don't know how to find happiness within you, you give and turn over that responsibility to your partner. And you want them to make you happy. That is not a human responsibility. That is not someone else's responsibilities. These are nothing less than unrealistic expectations. Unrealistic expectations that you set for yourself, setting yourself up for failure. Failure when those expectations aren't met. So my question to you is, are your expectations of your significant other expensive? Too expensive for them to be able to satisfy? Are your expectations too expensive for them, for that person, making it very difficult for them to connect with you, to satisfy you, to bring happiness to you, to elevate you? Because no matter what they do, it's just not enough. Think about this. Spirit also says to check your attitude. Check your attitude. Check your attitude. Some of you are sabotaging your relationships, or at the verge of sabotaging a current relationship. I'm getting this message right now that you are at the verge of sabotaging a current relationship because of your attitude. Your attitude is destroying the longevity of this relationship. You are a good person. Spirit is not saying the contrary, but your ways and your attitude are not good. Are you always mad about something? Are you always upset? Do you make yourself a difficult individual to deal with? Are you someone that you know you are difficult to deal with? Or do many people refer to you as a difficult person to deal with? That's expensive, beloveds. That is too expensive. Always short fuse, always mad, always suspicious, always have a bad attitude, always maybe rude, or you're maybe always snappy. You got to check your attitude, because your attitude is conducing your relationship into a sabotaged end. And you don't deserve that. The other person still deserves it. But it's hard to live, and maintain a healthy relationship with someone that is always mad, upset, is rude, is standoffish. It's just difficult to get to know, difficult to connect with, difficult to bond with. Always complaining about something over and 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 over again. It's like you fail to find beauty in life because your focus is only on the ugly, on the negatives, on the things that are not working. And Spirit is telling you today that you have to stop making yourself so difficult to get to know. And this whole notion about you hiding behind, this is just the way I am. You either got to take me or leave me. No, they don't have to take you. And you will be left. You will be left. And for those that are so kind-hearted, for those that are so sweet-hearted, that deal with you, it is not fair to them to be stuck with somebody that is always upset, rude, mad about something. Shift that energy into finding happiness, into finding joy, into finding bliss. That is possible, but your mentality, your state of mind refuses to see this. And only you have the power to change that. Only you have the power. These are people who are extremely beautiful, right? Extremely beautiful, gorgeous, or handsome, or what have you. But when they open their mouths, and when they start to talk and express themselves and speak, then we see them as ugly. Because, yeah, and I know I'm not the only one that have witnessed individuals that you look at them from afar, and you're like, wow, what a beautiful, person. But then when they open their mouth, it's like, ugh, wow, they just destroyed everything that you had seen, that you thought they were, got destroyed by their expression, by the way they talk. They're always bitter, they're always sour, or it's just so ugly, so much ugliness that comes out of their mouth. Are you dealing, listen to me very carefully, are you dealing with someone who is struggling to keep you, but you are making it very difficult to stay with? Are you dealing with someone that is struggling to keep you, doing everything they can to keep you, doing everything they can to make you happy, doing everything they can to put a smile on your face, doing everything they can to bring satisfaction to you, but you are making it very difficult to stay with? You are making it very difficult to deal with. You are making it very difficult to be embraced, to be loved. Are you making someone that truly loves you impossible for them to be with you? But then you will be the first one to condemn them. You will be the first one to curse them out. You will be the first one to try to say so many ugly things about them when they do end up leaving you. When they do end up calling this relationship the end of this relationship. You will only remember the demise, but you won't remember all that they did to try to salvage the relationship. You won't remember everything that they did to try to keep you happy. The problem is that for some of you, it's just not enough. For some of you, it's just not good enough. What they do is just never enough. What they do is never enough because your cup is so empty. Your cup is so empty that it's hard to fill up. And when a person's cup is empty and it's hard to fill up, no matter what the other person does, it's just not good enough. It's just not good enough. And Spirit is talking to some of you today that need to learn how to fill your own cup so that you don't expect someone else to fill it, because the expectation is too high. Like I said earlier, it's too expensive. Some relationships, beloveds, some relationships will collapse because your attitude will destroy it. Some relationships will collapse because your attitude will destroy it. You have to talk about your issues with your partner. You have to talk about your issues with your significant other, especially if this is a romantic relationship. You have to talk about your issues with your partner. Why? For all those of you that don't want to talk about your past, that don't want to share your past, that don't feel that it's important to speak about your past, you know why it is important to speak about your past? You know why you should share your past with your partner? You know why is it that you need to bring this to the table? Because your inability to speak about your past will be the same cause of its demise. Your inability and your unwillingness to speak about your past will be how you end up sabotaging your relationship. Why? Because then you have an attitude, or you're upset, or you're in a certain kind of way, and you expect the other person to understand why you are the way you are. You expect the other person to understand why you're upset, why you're moody, why is it that you're always depressed, why is it that you're always tired, why is it that you're never, hardly ever in the mood for sex. Why? Because you got to talk to them. You got to talk to them what happened to you. You got to talk to them as to why you avoid intimacy. You got to talk to them about why you avoid sexual encounters. You got to talk to them why is it that you brush them off each time they want to hug you. You got to talk to them why is it that you don't like them to caress you, to embrace you. You got to speak about these things so they understand where you're coming from, so they understand that you've been a victim of trauma, so they understand that you've been a victim of sexual abuse, so they understand that you were raped when you were 16 years old, so that they understand that you were molested when you were 9. They have to know this. It's uncomfortable to speak about it, but you have to. If you do love this person, if you want to keep them by your side, if you don't want to torture them, if you don't want to step over the love that they give to you, you got to speak about those very deep rooted issues that cause you pain, but also cause you to become distant from your partner if you want to salvage this relationship. Because as long as you choose not to speak about it, this relationship is going down the drain. And you won't have nobody to blame but yourself. Nobody to blame but yourself. Is it easy? No, it's not. Is it comfortable? Definitely not. And you might need assistance. You may not be able to do it by yourself. You may not be able to do it all on your own. You may not be able to know how to put it out there. Maybe you need a counselor. Maybe you need a therapist. Maybe you need a spiritual healer that has that kind of experience with couples and have you two there to coach you and guide you, to help you allow certain things to surface that need to surface in order for this relationship to be salvaged. But you're going to have to talk about it if you want the relationship. If you really love him like you say you do, if you really love her like you say you do, because this is not only for women, this is for men too. There are many men that have been molested as children. There are many men that have had traumatic sexual encounters and other kinds of traumas that aren't necessarily of sexual nature. But there are many of us, men and women, that have had trauma that needs to be spoken about if the person that you have by your side is someone that you truly love and truly want to keep by your side in order to salvage this relationship. Or maybe Spirit is talking to you, to the person who your mom or your dad and your siblings and your best friend just never gets why you're always so mad, so upset, so angry, so bitter, so this, so that. If you care about them, if they've proven to be loyal to you, you're going to have to talk about serious things that you went through so they understand where you're coming from, why you are the way you are. Don't expect people to understand why you act the way you act. People don't have an emotional detector, radar in their mind that says, oh, she's feeling this way because, when she was 16 years old, she figured out that, yada, 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 or he's like this because he never really had a healthy love language, developed at home. They don't know these things, but you do. They don't know these things, but you do. And it's your responsibility, if you care for them enough, if you love them truthfully, to allow this to surface. Finding the right time, finding the right guidance, doing it in a healthy, peaceful way. We don't have to get loud, we don't have to get angry, but doing it in a peaceful way. So that person that has been there by your side understands why you treat them the way you do, why you act the way you do. So they understand that you're not rejecting them because it's them. You're rejecting them because you're rejecting yourself. Somebody in your life needs to know this. So I hope, my beloveds, I hope that this message made sense to you. If this is about you, leave a comment, share the video. If this is not about you, tag your friends, because somebody needs to hear this message. Somebody needs to set themselves free from the prison that they have created for themselves. So you can help somebody else by sharing this video if this message weren't for you. And if it was for you, share it anyway. Show some support and so show some love by sharing this video and tagging your friends. Leave a comment, follow my page, and let's stay connected. This is Spiritual Dr. Alfie. May you have a blessed rest of your evening.